Hello, friends. This is Professor Guglov. Today's video will be a little unusual, but I'm sure you will like it. So, get comfortable and let's go. Rukie the dog was raised by a cow. When the dog named Rukie was very young, he lost his mother. But fortunately, he was not the only animal on the farm, and soon 2 cows took care of him. One of them became so fond of the baby that she completely replaced his mom. Rukie, who had previously suffered from loneliness, also became very attached to her and never left her side. The couple was inseparable. Rukie even slept in the arms of his new mom. 2 years passed in such a family idyll. But then the owners of the farm had financial difficulties. They could no longer keep 2 cows at once and decided to sell one of them, and, unfortunately, they chose Rukie's mom. The cow was transported to a neighboring farm. For the short-legged Rukie, it was an impossible task to cover such a distance. But the dog didn't give up and ran off to find his mom. He followed her scent and listened to the sound of her voice. The cow was calling him. Looking at the pet's suffering, the farmer was relieved. He decided to return the cow, realizing that the dog simply could not live without her. A fox snuck into the English Parliament building. In 2020, a fox snuck into the British Parliament building, creating chaos briefly. It is known that the animal ran up to the 4th floor on the escalator. After that, the police caught it and put it in a box. The animal was carried on a stretcher out of the building, and then released the fox to the wild. Politicians and civil servants expressed bewilderment over the episode. Some noted that although they had seen various oddities in Parliament over the years, but such an incident still causes surprise. In particular, it is unclear how the animal got there. The mountain goats have taken over the city. In March 2020, the English coastal town of Llandudno, population about 20,000 people, was invaded by more than 100 wild Kashmiri goats that came down from the Great Orme Promontory. The animals flooded the city center, eating hedges, running through the streets and looking into people's windows. The goats had come down to the city before, but didn't stay long because of the crowds. Now they have stayed in the center for several days. City Councillor Carol Marubi is sure it's a matter of the quarantine regime imposed during the pandemic of COVID-19. According to her, tourists stopped coming to Cape Great Orme and the goats came down to the town, out of interest. And seeing the deserted streets, they decided to take over. The residents of Llandudno did not expel the animals, but, on the contrary, were very proud of them. The sea lions have taken over the city. That same year, the Argentine resort of Mar del Plata was overrun by sea lions. Representatives of the big-eared seal family crawled ashore in large groups and literally flooded the city. They could be found everywhere, in the port, on the embankment and streets, near garbage cans and houses. These generally friendly animals were generally lying in the sun and relaxing. However, according to eyewitnesses, many sea lions did not want to share territory and became aggressive. For example, they chased street dogs and could show their teeth to overly obnoxious passersby. However, they mostly showed curiosity rather than aggression. For example, during a broadcast on a local TV channel, a male sea lion showed interest in the TV correspondent and tried to approach the girl, but she managed to quickly run away from the wild animal. The monkeys have taken over the city. Well, the residents of the city of Leopard, located in Thailand, faced the most real monkey riot in 2020. Restrictions due to the pandemic COVID-19 negatively affected the entire tourism industry, and tourists are the main source of food for macaque crab-eating monkeys. In an attempt to appease the hungry animals, locals began feeding them, mostly sweet and junk food. The results didn't last long. Police armed with slingshots could do little to stop the macaques flooding the city. In June 2020, some 6,000 monkeys began terrorizing locals, attacking anyone who got in their way. Moreover, some parts of the city became off-limits neighborhoods that were fully occupied by crab eaters, destroying stores and entire businesses. The dog waited for nearly a month for his owners near the ruins of a burned-out house in California. In early November, residents of Paradise, California, posted photos and videos of horrific wildfires on social media. The fire raged for more than 1 day, so many people had to leave, leaving their homes to be eaten by the flames. At least, this was the situation in which American Andrea Gaylord found herself. The fire spread to Gaylord's home while the woman was out for a walk. After the flames engulfed Andrea's home, she had no choice but to obey the advice of rescuers and evacuate the city. However, all the while, the woman was concerned about what had become of her dogs Madison and Miguel, who remained outside the house. Finally, in early December, the refugees were able to return to the site of the disaster. However, Gaylord was waiting there not only with a burnt house, but also a real miracle. Madison was sitting on the ashes as if nothing had happened. The reason the dog was able to live in the middle of the forest for a month is simple. Shortly after the fires subsided, he was found and fed by animal rescuer Sheila Sullivan. She had previously met and adopted his brother Miguel, but unlike his kin, Madison refused to live with strangers and settled in the ruins of an old, destroyed house. A female crane fell in love with a zoo employee. The Smithsonian National Zoological Park in the United States is home to a female crane named Walnut. She was brought here 14 years ago when she was rescued from the hands of Chinese poachers. However, as it turned out, the bird has problems with marriage. All the males she chased away and could even peck them to death. To understand the situation, the zoo staff invited crane specialist Chris Crow. His task was to prepare the female for artificial insemination, but she reacted very aggressively to it. However, it was only at first. Later, the man noticed that she began to perform a mating crane dance around him. He had to play along by waving his arms in response. After the courtship ritual, the bird allowed Chris to perform artificial insemination. Curiously, even after the birth of the chicks, the female remained faithful to the man in her feelings, jealous of other cranes and even resentful when he does not appear for a long time. Jane Goodall and the chimpanzees. In the early 1960s, a young Englishwoman, Jane Goodall, traveled to Africa to study chimpanzees. Her observations became a sensation. What did Jane discover? First, she noticed that chimpanzees used branches to get termites out of termites and honey out of hollow trees, and stones to break nuts. The apes didn't just use the objects as tools, but also fine-tuned them to suit their needs. For example, before sticking a stick into a termite pit, a chimpanzee would peel it of bark and leaves. Previously, it was thought that only humans were capable of this. The second discovery was that chimpanzees are carnivorous and can cooperatively hunt small animals. The third discovery is that groups of monkeys can feud with each other. For 4 years, Jane Goodall observed a brutal, civil war that began with the division of a large pack of monkeys after the death of their leader. Thus, it turned out that chimpanzees are much closer to humans, both in good and bad, and this has led scientists to take a new look at the place of humans in the hierarchy of living things. The man helped the octopus and the octopus thanked him. It was just a small octopus that had been washed ashore by a wave. It was stuck in the sand and could not get to the life-giving moisture. Luckily, a man was walking along the beach. He decided to help the mollusk. No finger pointing and a series of octopus pictures. No. The man simply went to get a plastic cup, put the clam in it and took it to the water. In just a couple of minutes, the octopus recovered from the shock and, instead of swimming far out to sea, it spread its tentacles and stroked the foot of its savior. I guess in octopus language it means, thank you. The leopard came to the cow every night. In an Indian village in Gujarat, a leopard was seen walking around at night and people decided to follow it. To the surprise of the locals, the leopard came to the same cow every night. At first people saw an adult animal. The leopard was a nuisance to the farm. The animals had to be kept in stalls all the time, so special services captured the leopard and took it away to the forest. And then a family living in a remote area contacted the Animal Protection Service again with a strange story. According to them, every night a different, younger leopard came to their cow's stall, behaving in a very friendly manner. To verify the story, cameras were installed on the roof of a nearby house. Indeed, a leopard came to the stall at night. The cow greeted him like an old acquaintance and soon both animals just fell asleep. It seems that the wild cat met the cow when he was very small and just got used to her. And the cow didn't understand who leopards were and was just happy to have a buddy. This is what the cameras captured. As time went on, the leopard came to the stall less and less often, until it disappeared altogether. Most likely, it simply moved to other places. Well, as I promised, the video was interesting. So, subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up. See you tomorrow. Bye for now.